There's always room for two if you want to meet my friends. We are on Kirblog. We are. Welcome to the last installment of my first Anime April. I'm joined once again by Mike and Steve. Say hi all at the same time again, gentlemen, please.
Hello.
Steve isn't here. He's just staring judgingly.
No, I was waiting to see if just nothing was going to be said. So
just pure idiocy on my part. As I've been teasing, not just in the last one that we did, not just in the last one I did, but really this whole month, I feel like this show that is very near and dear to our hearts has been talked about. But I wanted to save One Piece for last and have these two on with me because this is a very, very special series for us for well over a decade now. It's crazy. I did do, I think back in like 2014, I did a solo Kirblog where somehow only for about 10 minutes I talked about some memories of my own with One Piece. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that you probably haven't heard that, or if you have, it was so long ago, it doesn't matter. So I will apologize to anybody who heard that one for any repeated information on my part. But either way, I wanted to do one with these guys, not just because it's a great series and it means very much to us, but also it's very relevant. It's also relevant to all of, it's influenced really all of us in terms of like our art as well and our storytelling. Steve, we mentioned on the Yu Yu Hakusho one, you've been working on the One Piece podcast for how many years now?
almost 7.
That's crazy. So as with last time, I want to start off with origin stories, not so much tragic backstories involving lost limbs or dead parents. But Mike, I think we're going to start with you this time because I think that you technically predate either of us in terms of how you got into it.
I'm not totally sure about that, but I have been reading it pretty much since a little after it began in the American run of Shonen Jump, the magazine.
Yeah, which was all the way back in middle school for us.
I remember before I started reading it, the very first thing I saw was one of the covers of Shonen Jump where it's like a forced perspective of Luffy giving like a thumbs up and a weird face.
Yeah.
And that completely put me off because I was like, what is this weird thing with a weird face? It's creeping me out.
That's just the case with most people. I was like that for a while, like even when you were reading it and you were telling me about it. Because I distinctly remember in school you telling me about, oh dude, and in the latest chapter, Captain Crow, they found out like why he was pushing his glasses up, and I'm just like, I literally don't understand anything you're talking to me about.
It's one of those things that like I tried getting a lot of people into and everyone just wouldn't hear it. Now it's one of the biggest things ever.
It's bigger and better than Naruto and Bleach and a lot of the other long-running shonen series for many, many, many years.
Some people might not ever know that.
No, which is, well,
okay.
I'm happy a lot more people do now, but I mean, we'll get to that. By the way, so yeah, no, you were reading in middle school, like was it like from the beginning? Like what was it that got you like on board more or less?
It was when I was reading Shonen Jump because I just bought it for like whatever was in it. I guess it was Dragon Ball, probably also Naruto.
Yu-Gi-Oh! I think was in there at the time.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, yeah. And I just read One Piece out of boredom, and I was like, "This is really good."
Yeah.
And I forget the exact part. It was a little before Buggy, I think.
Oh, okay, so like extremely early then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's literally all I knew was Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Buggy. That was all of my any information like in that early period. At all, but no, I do remember that. I know, because it's funny because then I feel like when I eventually got into it, if anything, it must have been like, oh yeah, no, it's about time. Like more and more people need to like know what the fuck this is already. But yeah, and that was like, I mean, obviously the series has been going on for well over 20 years now. But even just in the U.S. with the American Shonen Jump publication, like that was like early 2000s, I think, when that started. Like. It's been a long time, and I'd still pinch myself about that. Steve, I don't know if you predate me, but what year did you get into it, if you remember?
December 2002.
Oh, wow. When the manga was going on?
Shonen Jump, the first issue of American Shonen Jump, Chapter 1.
Oh, well.
That's what you beat us.
I did not know that. And I actually, okay, see, this is one of the things I was excited about, because I actually don't know your beginning with the series, and that completely makes sense with how much of an aficionado you are.
Yeah, if you listen to the podcast, I think every now and then we talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, because Shonen Jump, I know I never even heard of Shonen Jump as much as of a Dragon Ball fan I was. It wasn't until well, I think they did around like New York Anime Fest. I think around that time they had like a big launch party in the U.S. where I think most of the manga artists were there for it. Mm-hmm. Like that was the launch thing, but I didn't see that magazine until the January 2003 issue, and that came out in December 2002. I remember because a buddy of mine, John, brought it in and showed it to me and let me borrow it. And it's funny, John, you probably don't know him, and you probably never even knew what his username was, but if you've seen high quality versions of the Jolly Rogers from most of the series, he did those.
Oh, like on the wiki and everything?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, all those, he did those. He did those for fun.
Huh. Like just perfect recreation.
So if you ever see merchandise in conventions of, of the Jolly Rogers, all that, they took his.
Really?
Yeah.
Of like all the individual Straw Hat one? Really?
Yeah, the guy that like kind of indirectly introduced me to One Piece was the guy that would later go on to make all those high quality.
Like officially, like he's worked for like the real license. No, they just
did
took
those
his
for fun. John used to send me like all these cool like just designs he was coming up with, just using those and posters and stuff. And I'm like, this stuff is cool. I don't know how to print it.
It's a thankless ass job.
But yeah, chapter 1 was and how lucky was I to be able to be introduced to that series from the get-go, from the beginning.
Were you like immediately hooked, more or less?
No. Huh. No, not that I didn't like it. I did like it. But of course, still Dragon Ball was a huge thing.
Oh, sure.
And at the time, Naruto didn't debut till the second issue. Shaman King didn't debut till the third issue.
Really?
And I took to those series a little bit more at the time. But I just remember reading it. I'm like, wow, this looks like Disney. Like these characters are really. Their mouths are huge and they look very rubbery, and they looked very non-anime. Like it was very unique, but I think at the time, I didn't appreciate it at that age because you want everything to look all anime and badass, and that's not what One Piece was. Mm-hmm. The art was a little detrimental to it.
Well, you think about that time period too, like the early 2000s, where it was just like Pokemon, Dragon Ball, whatever was on Adult Swim at the time, and everything. And
you associated anime with that,
with like cool,
style.
Yes.
with spiky hair,
or not even just that, but just like it being like a little more like cool and mature, and like Luffy looks very kiddie at first glance.
Cartoons, Mom, it's anime.
Yeah.
And the mom says, "Anime are cartoons, you stupid shit." You're punished for saying stupid shit.
They're cartoons from another country, and you can just have to live with that fact.
But I just remember like looking at him like, this looks like Disney, and then, wait, did the fat guy that just eats food all the time just shoot that dude in the head point blank? I'm like, okay. So the series, despite it looking very goofy, has some teeth to it.
Well, yeah, especially because the first chapter of the manga is the Shanks backstory with Luffy, which was not my experience with even when I started watching the show. But like that as a cold opening is kind of interesting because it really is like it kind of leads you to believe, we lucky. Actually, not even because the very first panel they don't even have in the series version where Luffy fucking cuts his face open and gives himself the scar.
Yeah, that's like never even been in the anime.
No.
I mean, the TV series. I don't know if they went and done that in one of the specials later, but
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was another thing. It's like, this is weird. Did that kid just stab himself in the face? Well, let's not worry about it.
First thing that happens, I'm like, this isn't a kiddie show, is it?
But I've always been a fan, but I didn't become a huge fan till about like a year and a half later. I think I became like addicted to it.
Okay. And by that point, were they like well into the buggy stuff? I imagine.
No, Baratier.
Really?
Yeah.
In just that 1 year?
Yeah. It took forever to get to that when you think about it.
Well, because I guess they would have like
by 2004, by the fall of 2004, they were already into the Baratier.
Okay.
But Weekly Shonen Jump, not Weekly Shonen Jump, just Shonen Jump, the American one, was a monthly magazine, and I think you get about maybe 3 chapters.
Yeah, I was going to say, little chunks of them. And I'm assuming they were doing the graphic novels kind of alongside it.
Yeah, they were already
back in the early publications that I remember where Zoro's name was spelled correctly.
Well, yeah, Zoro was Zoro till about right after the 4Kids dub started airing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think within a couple months, they kind of bitched out.
Well, because I think from what I understand, I think that Zolo was a Toei decision. I think because I remember hearing.
Who knows, for sure.
Well, because I remember hearing. This is skipping ahead a little bit. But, I mean, it's no mystery now. A lot of people know that Funimation did a test dub. A lot of different places around the country and Canada even did test dubs of a couple episodes. And from what I remember being told, he was called Zolo in that. So I think I feel like that was from
what I've heard.
No?
No.
It was even before then.
And like on the podcast, I talked about this. We talked about an episode. It's called Barbecue Time.
Barbecue Time.
If you're interested. There was 3 test dubs that we saw. He was called Zoro.
Real? Okay.
2 of them, he was called Luffy. Was called
Luffy. Yeah.
I think only Funimation got that right.
I'm trying to remember who it was because there was somebody like from Funimation until I can't remember. It was so long ago. Either way, but I always kind of assumed it was like
it's not the most interesting thing about One Piece to talk about.
No, but just I mean because that was like a whole big problem with like characters' name being changed. But I guess kind of on that note, when regarding the series and when it first came to the U.S. Before it started airing on what was the artist formerly known as the Fox Box when that was a thing. I remember my first actual taste of the anime a tiny little bit. One important enough factor of it I felt, which is regarding Luffy's voice, was Mike Labrie, who I've had on Kirblog many times, Vegito EX from Kanzenshu, or what was then Daizenshu. He did a certain legendary Dragon Ball AF April Fool's joke where basically he took a bunch of clips of the Japanese voices of Goku, Krillin, and Trunks from various other shows. The Goku and Krillin clips of which came from One Piece for Dr. Kureha, which is Goku's Japanese actress, and Luffy/Krillin's Japanese actress as well. And basically made a fake trailer with like fake subtitles and blah 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 for like Dragon Ball AF coming out or whatever. And then he had a like real version of it where he showed the actual footage that he took from each of those shows and etc. So that was my first time seeing.
It's because of stuff like that. People were still coming up to me saying that Dragon Ball AF is happening, and I wanted to just.
You hear that, Mike? Congratulations, you fucked over so many people.
I don't know what it was, but people were insisting for years that AF was happening, and I'm like.
It stands for April Fools.
If you were saying this 10 years ago, I would have told you the same thing. No. You see, it's
coming out in Japan.
It's a fan comic, and I'm like, that's not.
Yes,
that's not a real thing.
Yeah, and that's not even a thing anymore. That's not even a thing anymore either, because I think that guy got hired to like do one like the Dragon Ball Heroes manga or something. I'm pretty sure, or maybe under a fake name.
Every time those intros from that arcade game show up on YouTube, everyone's like, new anime,
Dragon Ball AF. Yeah. Well, then now we have Super, so everybody can shut up already. But anyway, but I remember seeing footage of Luffy with that voice, and I was like, oh, okay. So by that point, I'd become familiar enough with most teenage boy characters in Japanese versions of anime were typically played by women. So flashing forward a couple years later, 4Kids licenses F-Zero GP Legend or Falcon Detsensu. Tokyo Mew Mew, which became Mew Mew Power, and One Piece, all 3 of those shows around the same time. And actually, you told me a funny story, I think, recently about it was some kind of, like, poll or something where they were going to show a preview of one of those 3 shows first. And what was the deal with that again?
Mew Mew Power was dominating the shit out of that poll. And that's because I think the majority of 4Kids, like Foxbox time, the majority of their audience were girls.
Huh.
Because girls were big in anime. And they were like, no, we want boys who
we can't sell toys to girls.
We want boys who like racing cars and dinosaurs and
card games.
So then they just pulled back on Mew Mew Power. It didn't even debut till the beginning of the following year.
Okay.
And then like One Piece was just like it was a sad day when the world found out that 4Kids had license to it. And that was like I said, I was a Shaman King fan. And that dub wasn't handled too bad, but we were like, oh, God.
Well, yeah, and see, it was interesting, because like, I think by that point I definitely knew about just the general deal with shows being censored in the U.S. I mean, I'd been watching Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'd been watching Mega Man NT Warrior, I'd been watching those shows in Japanese and seeing the quote-unquote real version, and et cetera. through totally illegal bootleg means that I will admit completely to my fallacy of. But I remember on the preview, like some kind of commercial for One Piece when it was beginning to air on TV, I heard Luffy's English voice, Erica Schroeder, at the time, and at first I was like, oh, that's interesting. I guess they decided to go with something like the way he sounds in Japanese, because I wasn't expecting that for a dub at the time. That typically it wasn't how it went. Mm-hmm. And I started watching the show. I can't remember what the first episode, because that was my first real exposure to the series, was when it aired on the Fox box. And now here's the thing.
To the show or the manga?
No, to the show. That was that.
Everything in general.
Yeah, really. I mean, I like I said, Mike had been telling me about the manga for years by that point, and had been reading it. I recognized characters from it. I think by that point I knew who Usopp and Sanji were, etc.
Yeah.
But my first exposure to the story itself was watching it on Saturday mornings on the Fox box, that edited version, believe it or not, and it really kind of says something, because getting what the story and the world and the characters were from that, I think it's not unfair to say, butchered version of but that was still enough to get me interested.
I know
weirdly.
A lot of people saw the 4Kids dub first, and they're fans today.
Yeah.
Which, hey, I
think
it says about the content itself.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. And it's interesting because I also remember this is really a long time ago, back when the TV Tome forum existed. I remember meeting. Actually, I think she was on Arlong Park. She went by Cosmic Debris.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I think Sam was her name. So if you're out there, thank you for setting me straight. She was on that forum, which I think also led me to later going on to Arlong Park forums later. Which
she introduced me to AP too.
Yeah,
because she was on the Shaman King Uncensored. Common link. Right
AP's not around anymore, is it?
It is, but
okay.
Is it?
I don't know. Shrug. I don't know. But and she showed me the first real full Japanese clip that I ever saw, which was when Nami pretends to stab Usopp when she stabs herself with a knife to, like, basically help him get away from when the Fishman pirates and everything.
Yeah, I think mine was Zoro getting defeated by. Well, I don't know how spoilerific I should get.
We can get spoilerific with it. I mean, there's so much content out there.
I think at this point, if I spoil like East Blue stuff for you,
it's like, come on already. Yeah.
When Zoro got defeated by Mihawk.
Okay.
I think that was the first clip I ever saw. That, and then because I think some website at the time had like some clips of here's from the Japanese version.
Okay.
Here's what you're missing, and because I saw that, and I saw like Kawina's funeral.
The real thing.
The real thing.
Jesus. See, I'm curious about your case, because I don't recall us ever having a conversation until like way later about like the shit that came with the 4Kids version. Like, what did you see that first in terms of the anime, or were you already like watching the fan subs or anything? Do you remember?
I think that probably was the first time I saw it animated.
Okay.
And I'd already like read a lot of it in the comics.
So you must have been like upset, I imagine.
Yeah, I was just like,
Did you see like the first episode, or
probably?
Yeah,
I don't really remember too well.
Blocked it out by this point.
I don't know, I know I was disappointed when I saw it.
See, and like, I'll say this too to defend things a little bit. I remember when I was, those of you who haven't seen the Did You Know voice acting video that I did about it, I remember doing a fair bit of research about the production of it, and I spoke with a few different people who were working for Kids at the time. And Toei was very directly involved with the production of it. They were totally given okays about all the changes and things happening with it, because I think, the intention was to make it like as big as something like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And because here's the thing too, we were joking about Mew Mew and all these other shows that they got at the time. They and the audiences and everything. 4Kids, when they were like the kings of Saturday morning, they licensed their shows based off of how much merch they could do with it, and like everything ancillary in addition to the shows.
Those One Piece toys.
But and of course, but at the same time, it's like, oh look, they actually made toys and American exclusive video games and a card game and all this stuff. Mew Mew, F-Zero, none of that stuff got anything. They never did anything for those series. It was one video, but even then, that was just a Nintendo thing. So, yeah. I mean, But yeah,
Too hard.
it's. I don't even think Winx Club might have even gotten any fucking merchandise. Even it might have, but
Barbies or something.
yeah.
I don't spend my days wondering about 4Kids.
Well, because the reason that I say that is because okay, clearly this was a premeditated act of like we're trying to make this successful, and because the sad thing is, and it just is what it is that One Piece I think overall still in the U.S. hasn't quite become like as big as I think it deserves to be. I'm really happy that again we're slipping way later, but I'm happy it's back on TV again. I'm happy it has a much bigger following aside from just like the kind of more
I'll say this,
underground
when
kind
I
of thing.
first started going to cons in around 2009.
Yeah.
You could count how many One Piece cosplayers there were on.
Oh, yeah.
On one hand.
Yeah.
These days, you could count on like both hands how many straw hats you see per day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Different ones
Maybe
too.
even more. You might need your toes.
Well, it's funny.
Big photo shoot, like get-togethers and stuff.
Yeah.
At almost every con,
I'm
it feels
usually
like,
there.
yeah.
You know,
Well, because I remember, I think it was if it was like Otakon, like 06 or 07 or something. The whole joke with us, no, it was 07 because Death Note had come out and we were counting how many L's we saw all weekend.
I think I got up to like 80.
Yeah, but no, that's true. Yeah, now like they're all, and yeah, I mean the photo shoot we went to at AX, I think a couple of years ago, like just all the big different like combinations of characters and stuff. It's like it's amazing. So I you know what? So like even though there was definitely a bumpy ride, like getting to kind of where it is now for sure, but but I am happy that and still I wanted to do better. I think that it is still continually growing in terms of its notoriety and everything in the U.S. market and just the English-speaking market in general.
It's still standing.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess also kind of continuing forward with watching the anime in general. That clip that I was shown by Cosmic Debris was what made me start watching and again, blowing the lid off. Yes, we watched fan subs back in the day. This was before the time of shows becoming very easily commercially available to get all the time, which is why we're very appreciative of what we have now.
Past generations have done much worse than us.
For sure. But yeah, I
want to be a Nakama? I'm going to be the world's greatest Kaizoku.
Let's please not even acknowledge that shit. So I was watching the fan subs. I feel like you and I were both kind of like in tandem watching everything up until what was like out at that time. Because I just remember like marathoning the shit through like everything all the way through like Alabasta. Like I must have downloaded like at least 100-something episodes at that time. And then like, I think Skypiea, I was just watching those episodes on YouTube because people were just uploading them easily. Like when you could do that. Not that that's a good thing, but just this was like the mid-2000s more or less.
Wild west of YouTube.
Yeah, more or less. But I also remember in our like computer art class was right, because they were uploading the newest episodes at the time, and it was right when the fire happens in Iceberg's house in Water 7, and Lucci turns into the big leopard form. That had just happened in the show at that time. This would have been like 2006 or 7 or so. I can't even remember exactly, but that was when I really started like following like everything that was happening like up to date, and I was reading the manga and everything as much as I possibly could. Do you guys remember any other? I mean, from that kind of era of like getting into like really hardcore into it.
Well, yeah, because I was getting frustrated with both, the Viz and the 4Kids dub. 4Kids dub, I think, goes without saying. Viz was just slow, and they were starting to use 4Kids terminology, and I was like, what the hell?
What was the?
I need to see this as it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. So I went through some other outlets. So I was like, this seems legit, and it wasn't. And I'm like, well, at least it's in Japanese.
Yeah, well.
It was a long way. But I had to. It's saying like, I can't take this anymore. I don't like how the series is being presented. And then that lasted a while.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say too. Also, Naruto, I think, was the first series Shonen Jump started like really like very quickly producing like all of the translations of everything as quickly as possible to like catch up to where Japan was, I think. Yeah. And then One Piece followed pretty quickly after that, and they caught up very fast, which is awesome. And they do an awesome job every week getting everything out as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. I remember in our last year of high school, when the announcement came down the pipe about Funimation getting it, and I was very happy. And I remember being at the Anime Expo 2007, a long time ago now, can't even believe that. Met Cosmic Debris in person there, which was wonderful. And I had a whole bunch of other, like, I think, Arlong Park folks as well, and that was a lot of fun. And I was there for when they announced the Straw Hats, when it first came out of the public, and it was Justin Cook and Mike McFarlane were up there, and I was just losing my shit at how happy I was about that. And
I remember because there was one false alarm. Everyone thought that originally One Piece got canceled when it got taken off of 4Kids TV, but it just wound up continuing on Toonami.
Yeah,
and then that's where it was going to stay. So I was like, and then everyone kind of just stopped caring. Like everyone just gave up.
Yeah, well, because I think
now and then we'd poke fun of something stupid that was done in the dub.
Yeah, well, because by the time they got to the Alabasta stuff and they were airing that on the Saturday night,
if they made it to Alabasta, we knew like they got it.
Yeah,
they've got this.
Yeah,
you know, if they're gonna make it through a arc about a war, then there's nothing we could do.
I mean, it seemed like they were gearing up because, I mean, you know, the video games
started circulating that they got the license taken away from them, and everyone was just happy about it. And then also, I remember it being really, it was bittersweet because everyone was like, "Thank God they don't have it anymore." But then it's like,
it's not going to have any presence in America anymore. Yeah, no.
That was its shot, and it blew it. And then it was announced that Funimation had acquired the rights, and that was like. That was like Christmas Day.
Yeah, Christmas in summer.
Because I grew up on Dragon Ball and Yu Yu Hakusho, and the Fullmetal Alchemist stuff was so good.
Oh, yeah. That was just off the heels of that, too.
I'm like, why can't this be a thing? And like I said, like kind of just like gave up. And the fact that the people that dubbed DBZ and Yu Yu Hakusho were going to dub One Piece... which became my favorite show.
Yeah, and even specifically McFarlane and Chris Bevins, who I've talked about on a couple of the other ones before, like them being the two people in charge of. I mean, Bevins I know has moved on to other things, and Mike is kind of back and forth on it. But like the fact they started off and it was like so well treated in like and getting to go back and watch the episodes again and seeing them that way was wonderful and like and then I remember
Super Soakers.
Yeah, no more Super Soakers, no more lollipops.
Well, they started with the Skypiea stuff, the Jaya stuff, and it was just like, cool, whatever, just dub the series.
Yeah.
And then it later got, because then we found out, now they're re-releasing on DVD. It's like, whatever, it's fine, just as long as it's One Piece. And then it was revealed, it's the first season. Everyone was just like, awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's been going strong. We're up to season 8 now, I think, right?
Season 8 is about to come
out. About to come out very soon, which, it's been crazy because I mean obviously also I've been following the show pretty closely every week, and the manga as well every time a new chapter comes out, and and now it's like when I go back and I watch because the dub is like a few arcs behind like by this point, but seeing them again after a couple of years past, I'm watching Thriller Bark again and Impel Down, all this stuff. I'm like, I forgot like how much I love this arc, and like to see it again in English with the really good dub and just the great treatment and everything. It's got an awesome cast and stuff, and it's like I guess transitioning away from like we basically made this into kind of a history lesson, not just for us but for the franchise in general over here. But yeah, I mean like it's such a like constant part of all of our lives, and so many people that we know. I mean Brian, who you've had on the podcast many times, and like who I've gotten to know now. And like a lot of our friends at cons and just different people, and even some of the folks that work on the show. Like it's like it's still a massive deal, and the fact that it's like I'm so much more appreciated. I feel now by an English speaking audience makes me so much happier.
So there's more of a presence now. People have been made more aware of its existence, and Cream rises to the top. This one just took some time.
You're in the middle of the ride. I mean, I know we could really make any of these things into so many individual topics as they are,
One Piece
but
is so vast.
There's so much to say, yeah. But
we spent a lot of time here just doing like kind of like a history lesson of where it's been in the States and where it's gotten to.
Well, let's get to like the stuff that is so meaningful to us as
Actual
well.
One Piece,
sure. I mean, again, so many things, that we could be here for hours talking about just this part of it. But I mean, characters,
I would know that,
arcs, episodes, fights, moments, anything like that, anything at all. I'm going to save you for last, actually, because I feel like because you have the precedence and everything. I'll start off. For myself, I would say, I mean, really, all of the Straw Hats are but the majority of them are all really, really strong characters, and like One Piece is such a great series that balances out. I mean, not just them, but I mean, we were talking earlier about the most recent arc happening in the manga right now. With these like animal people, the minks. And there's all these characters that kind of like come and go depending on what the arc is, but they balance everything out somehow. And sometimes they'll have characters take a break and stuff. We haven't seen, some of the other Straw Hats for a while since the most recent really long-term Dressrosa arc wrapped up. But, all the Straw Hats are fantastic. Luffy still, I think, is one of like the best like protagonists of anything. Like he's just such a like universally wonderful character. Zoro definitely for the cool factor, and also I personally relate to him and his shitty sense of direction as a New Yorker who would come out of the subway and be like, which way am I going? Every time I'd feel like Zoro. Chopper, I think, is adorable and is iconic kind of in his own sort of Pikachu-esque way, and not just because of his voice. Even beyond any of the other characters, which goes to show with the Chopper Man stuff and things like that. God, I mean, I'm sure I'll, throw out more and more. But I mean, Princess Vivi, I have a soft spot for her. I know a lot of people are kind of mad about her, but I thought she had a great beginning, middle, and end. Excuse me. And Robin is the one I'm always like the most curious to learn more about as kind of things progress. Her tragic backstory of all the many that all the Straw Hats have had, I think, is
heartbreaking.
To me. And honestly, no, I hear that differently from other people. Some people think other ones are far more extreme, but Robin's, I'm watching it again recently when Funimation got up to doing those episodes. I fucking cried at the kind of climactic part of that up until before she's, beginning to grow up and she becomes the woman that she is today. Today in the context of the story. God, please, you next, go.
What are we talking about?
Favorite characters, anything like that.
Characters?
Yeah.
I mean, the favorite characters would just be the Straw Hats in general, so I'm going to put them aside.
Sure.
And say, like, favorite characters are, like, then it would just be all the Shichibukai, the
all of the warlords.
Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
I love Jinbei. I love Crocodile. Even Hancock, I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, he's another one I'm curious to like see kind of more of what. It's so funny. There's so many characters from like close to the beginning of the show that we still don't know that much about in terms of like their long term shit. Like even Shanks. Like Shanks is still kind of he and Mihawk and their whole kind of like whatever their relationship was like. They're still kind of mysterious and like what is the deal with them, but they're still endearing and cool and yeah. No, the Shichibukai are all great. Jinbei, I know Jinbei's always for years now been one of your favorites.
Yeah, just his design is just like goofy, but cool,
and he's still badass. I mean, like because he has like Fishman Karate kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, he has like the water stuff. Arlong was using. Arlong would actually be up there too.
Yeah,
just as a great villain.
Arlong was. I feel like he was really the first like holy shit kind of bad guy.
The entire like climax of the Arlong arc was what made me say I love this series to death.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, especially, like, the big...
Arlong's kind of, that's like, that arc is the anchor.
Yeah.
At that point, once you get to that, like, if you're not in it, you're not in it.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard people say, like, oh, yeah, I really got into it, like, in this arc, that's past Arlong arc. I'm like, wait, so during the entire Arlong arc, you were just like, whatever.
Yeah. There's a couple of scenes that, like, every now and then I'll just, like, search on YouTube, because I just like to watch those like impactful scenes.
Oh yeah,
one of them is definitely when Nami has like her breakdown and starts like
stabbing her. Yeah.
Like that just like hits me like right in the heart.
Yeah,
I love that part.
That and also like the building breaking and you're my friend. Like oh god.
Like, much later on, like a similar one with Robin screaming, "I want to live."
Oh yeah,
that's like. It's great.
That was another one again. I mean, I keep saying this, but like watching it again years later when the dub finally hit that point, because there was a break for a long time after they finished Skypiea and they didn't get up to the Water 7 stuff for a while.
You're talking about the dub.
Oh yeah,
yes.
No, I would. Stephanie Young fucking killed that scene because I mean, seeing Robin in like a vulnerable state was such an like alien concept, even for like as little amount of time she was in the series. By that point she was really only a couple arcs since she joined, but seeing that and like how much like yep, these people are family now, it was just like I feel like such a dick when we were and I think when we were still in high school And I had a thought at any point, like, I want Paulie to join and not Frankie. Frankie's weird, and
Frankie's a character who, like, I didn't like him at all, but then I came around on him, like, completely. He's like one of my favorites now.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, just, man, can we get some more of Frankie sometimes? Because he's still got to do cool stuff, but I still feel like sometimes he's just there, and he deserves to, like, do some more cool shit. But I feel like I could say that about Sanji, which I know, Steve, you have a big affinity for. And, like, I mean, he's been kind of off the map for a while, and then now I think, in the manga, he's about to get a lot of attention to himself very soon. I really like the CP9 as well. Like, those villains were very more on the serious side, but still very, very intriguing. I thought they were very cool.
Lucci's got another one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Him versus Luffy when Luffy breaks out jet Gatling.
Yeah. That was around when I finally started, like, following the manga, like, up to where Japan was at, like, just because I was so into it.
Whenever I try to think of, like, a cool fight scene to draw, I always think to, like, Rob Lucci versus Luffy.
You're talking about scenes that you would go back to too. I mean, once in a while.
Definitely Crocodile. That's a big one.
Yeah, with that music and everything, which
so fucking good.
and the movie version of it, even without the music, the movie version of it with the better animation was like.
I haven't seen that yet.
Have you ever seen the Alabasta movie? No. It's all right.
Skip it.
It's.
I'm gonna differentiate.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Animation? No, it's not. Animation is not any better.
I guess you know what? Actually, to be fair, I think my good memories of that was because were you there at Otakon? Or no, what was it? No, it was New York Anime Fest, I think, when they premiered that over here.
I didn't know what a con was.
Not even yet. Oh, sorry, not till 09. Mm-hmm. But they premiered it at, I think, like either 08 or something, and they showed it, and that was like our taste of getting what going back and then doing the early episodes are going to be.
It came out.
Yeah.
I remember I had to. On my way from one class to another in college, I stepped away, and everyone's like, "Wait, did you get Steve?" And I'm like, "It's a movie."
Oh. I have to put special mention. I don't think I told this story on the solo Kirblog I did about One Piece a long time ago, but because I was saying about the Alabasta movie, that was like getting a taste of what it was going to be like when they go back and redo those episodes. Mm-hmm. I bought One Piece Unlimited Adventure in our first year of college for the Wii, and poor Mike had to hear me for like several months playing that game. And constantly having to, if you guys had never played that, there were these little like robot like sentry guards that like every time you'd enter a new area, they'd just be like, intruder detected. Like every other millisecond he had to hear that shit. All basically just so I could get up to a boss fight after collecting 700 stupid ass items to hear like a couple lines of whoever Funimation was going to get for that character when they got up to that point.
Mm-hmm. Like collecting sticks to collect bugs
to collect whales to collect like I don't care. Yeah, then I gave up after a while. But at least I finished the main quest and I was like done. I'm gonna try. And then I traded in for the Bleach game because that was a good idea. Anyway, but Steve, please a few share.
What were we talking about?
Favorite characters, favorite moments, fights, anything like that.
It's like all the Straw Hats are my favorite characters.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. You gotta put them aside. And think about
that's the thing.
Is Sanji still your all-time favorite?
Sanji's still my favorite.
Of course.
Sanji's still cool.
Would you say that Sanji is cool?
No, it's not like that.
Do you attend Sanji school?
That's worse.
You were batting a thousand today.
That's okay,
good. Good night, everybody.
I was doing that like character poll thing on that Japanese website, and it got to the point I'm like, all the Straw Hats are going to be in my top 10. I need to start picking other characters over them, but I like all the Straw Hats, and that's like such a crazy thing for you to really enjoy the entire cast.
Oh yeah,
and I know some people are different, and I think some people, I guess, are maybe more interesting in their taste than me. But I can't, in good conscience, pick any characters over the Straw Hats. And then in terms of other characters, I like a lot of the villains. Like I like Eneru. I like.
Well, Eneru, you certainly, I would imagine, have a little bit of bias now.
Yeah, I guess so. But
not that he's not a great character.
But there's another bias there before all that.
Oh sure. But if anything, that was the talking point for how you and J. Michael Tatum basically became like best buddies and stuff.
Totally, best friends.
Anyway.
Like I like a lot of the villains. Like I like Arlong. I like Spondum. Of course, like I like characters like like Jinbei. A lot of the podcast listeners know I have the soft spot for Dellinger. But it's like I like a lot of the characters. It's not my favorites are just all the Straw Hats.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Straw Hats.
Well, what was it about Sanji that made you that made him your favorite? Like, kind of early on. Well, yes, as your
Sanji,
old screen name implies.
Well, I mean, I think everyone at the time, like everyone really liked Zoro. I think people yet hadn't quite realized how special of a character Luffy was.
Yeah.
And like Usopp, everyone's like, ew, he has a nose. Long nose, and Nami was the token chick.
I didn't like Usopp at first. I remember even I shudder to think.
I remember when I did start to really like Usopp.
What was that?
Oh, that was in the Arlong arc.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the second greatest arc of all of One Piece.
Next to what?
Right past Water 7.
Okay.
His lobby. Mm-hmm. No, with Sanji, he was different. He was not like the other guys. He was suave.
Women want him, and men want to be him.
He smoked a cigarette, and his fighting style, he kicked because he didn't want to use his hands because he was a cook. And I'm like, that is awesome. I immediately gravitated towards that character, and I think that's as soon as Sanji was introduced, that's when I'm like, yeah, Naruto, Naruto's great, but One Piece is getting good.
I actually, you remind me a little funny thing about Sanji because. Talking about how Arlong Park is the make or break point of you're fully invested by that point. Mm-hmm. Liz and I watched a whole shit ton of it, and her first exposure was a little bit of the Water 7 stuff, just out of context, not knowing much about it. She's like, "All right, I'm intrigued," and then we watched a whole all of the East Blue stuff from the beginning. And by the end of Barati, with Sanji bowing down, crying, and thanking Zeph as they sail off. She was sobbing her fucking brains out. I was just wow. Yeah, I was so even before
watched
that
it
point.
In a bathroom. That's a story.
Do you want to tell it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the DVDs I had for One Piece weren't quite. They weren't quite right. I'll just say that. And at the time, I think I was watching them on a PS2, and my PS2 wasn't reading some of those discs, but. Xbox could. Just so happened though, my brother, who's he gets crazy ideas. He thought, hey, we just have this portable TV that someone left here. We're not using it. I'm going to put the portable TV in the bathroom and put the Xbox in there so we can play video games in the bathroom. I was like, why not?
In your own house.
Yes.
Wow.
So the Xbox can play those DVDs just fine. You would think I would just take the Xbox out of the bathroom and just put it in my room.
It's been a very nice, clean bathroom, I hope.
No, I sat in the bathroom. Just watched the rest of Barati. Ate dinner in there, too.
My God.
My pants were on, though. So
well, I would hope, yeah. See, I lecture my dad for having TVs in at least in one of his bathrooms, but I mean, enjoying your entertainment.
I don't know if I've ever told that story on the podcast. I know I've said some other geeky things I've done.
Was that when the Funimation discs were coming out?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm talking. These DVDs were different.
Oh, wow, yeah. With Clock Dial.
Yeah. Sunkissed is my favorite character. My favorite soda pop.
My
favorite orange soda.
I've only ever heard the tales of those. I never. That was my experience with shitty Yu-Gi-Oh DVDs.
Mm-hmm. It's still better than watching the dub. With favorite characters. Other than that, I like so many of them.
Any of them. I mean, we've mentioned a lot of big ones.
Buggy is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I go crazy every time Buggy comes back.
Especially when he gets to be with Mr. 3. I almost said number 3, fucking kids next door. Hi. Especially him now with Mr. 3, as his foil, if any, or sort of a foil.
I like a lot of the villains. Because even sometimes they become good guys, or sometimes they're so lovable you can't hate them. Like characters like Bon Clay, or so enjoyable.
Scott and I mentioned a little bit about him. Weirdly, in the Naruto rant 2-hour one that we did, we mentioned Bon Clay for a moment and just how good of a fucking character he is. Just my God, and actually, really, I personally love the entire Kamabaka, the queer characters of One Piece with Ivankov and everybody. They're all, and Inazuma. Finishing up the Impel Down episodes recently because those are just been coming out this year. God, they are such a amazing group of people and like their whole like lifestyle and like what they do for the main characters at the time, and they're so fucking cool and like different. Their designs are amazing, and like God, I don't know.
That's the thing with One Piece. It looks different.
Yeah, it's extremely unique.
It's kind of like when I don't know. I wouldn't say like the other series were in Jump. Like everything has a unique style, but One Piece is so different, and every arc is almost like watching a different movie.
Yeah, or like a different series that goes on.
You go from a drama to a comedy to like a stoner comedy to a horror movie to like a war movie.
Mask of Zorro, like Dressrosa kind of
everything.
thing.
Everything is different, and while it could follow the same formula, it's always in a different tone. Yet it isn't in a different tone because it's One Piece and it has this lightheartedness to it, but it could really get in the mud sometimes and get a little dirty and get a little...
Yeah. I think, I'm trying to remember, I think it was either Julian Grabowski or maybe Clyde Mandelin. One of them made this point about, like, for a series that is relatively formulaic in that they go to an island, there's a bad guy, eventually all of the individual Straw Hats are going to fight one of the underlings of the main villain, which will then eventually be defeated by Luffy. Despite that formula basically being the same for almost every major arc, it still is amazingly fresh and cool, and there's all these really inventive...
Characters have different motivations.
Yeah, and and the powers are cool, which makes the fights really interesting. Like the
designs.
Yeah, and the gimmicks that go with them and everything. They're it just never bores you. Like... because it's hard.
Debatable.
Well, sure. There have been slow periods in there. Because I'll even admit, like Dressrosa just wrapped up recently in the comic and the anime too. It's kind of in the process of wrapping up in the anime. And I admit, like even there was a time where it's like, all right, I'm ready to wrap this up already because it was 2 years at least. They did that arc, right? And but still, because even like now that as I'm finishing it, I'm really seeing, I'm like looking back at all the little kind of like mini arcs that, or like character developmental arcs, I mean, not story arcs that kind of happened like in the span of, this one set of 24 hours that this arc took place in, basically, like, and it's just like, God, this is incredible, and there's so much packed shit with like the Tontadas and the history of the island itself and the toys and the Don Quixote family and how Trafalgar Law kind of weighs in with it.
It's really hard to sum up everything with One Piece because it's been going for so long now, and every arc is different. It manages to have this childlike innocence, something that caters to a lot of kids that always just thought of the world as like a big and like this big and amazing place. Yeah, and at the same time, it can be very grounded in its emotions and its character depth. Yeah. And
its lore, like it's like this
very rich in
stuff.
Lore, and Oda, the creator, he does his homework and does a lot of, he incorporates a lot of history of like, the world that we know into this story. Yeah. There's so much world building and so much character development in this series. It's kind of unreal. It's kind of unreal because not even like other series that have become so popular aren't nearly as deep as One Piece. And I don't like to use the term deep.
No, but it's true. It really is true for this.
But One Piece has a shit ton of layers to it. Yeah. And it's something like, and I love Dragon Ball, and Oda loved Dragon Ball. Mm-hmm. Oda has surpassed Toriyama in every way.
Oda remembers stuff, which helps.
I honestly, I used to really give it's great because there's Oda has interviewed Toriyama, I think now like a couple times, but I think one of the first ones was in the first Color Walk. And like Toriyama was it's a shame because Oda was saying like, I loved when you drew Tao Pai Pai's hand like this. He's like, I don't remember that. Can you use that again?
It's totally understandable. Like, I forget how to draw my own characters sometimes. It's like, I haven't done nearly as much as either of them.
And if someone came up to me and was like, oh, remember that one comic, that 1 week you drew in college? I'd be like, I don't know.
See, this is kind of interesting to mention because, like, I think that, I mean, Dragon Ball, objectively, I think, is still, like, a worldwide, like, one of the most known animated properties in the world. And I think that that's not on accident. I think that there is still definitely a lot of like genuine value to what Toriyama came up with.
I'm not saying there's no appeal to Dragon Ball, but
No. I'm not saying that either. But it's funny because I think Toriyama is more of like an innate kind of like just something about his, flying by the seat of his pants with his characters and his stories. It just worked, and it, as that type of production, was special. Oda, you can tell he has a very different sensibility in that he seems much more calculating, and like he has a big grand scheme for like, and I'm sure he still leaves things open enough that he can, if he has a new idea that comes up, like, I can do an arc about this or whatever, because every new island can be a whole new type of story he can tell that is like a different genre from the last in some ways, even though it's all shown in action kind of thing. But, so it's One Piece is, One Piece would not exist were it not for Dragon Ball. That's just a fact.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I feel like it really, because I think I used to say more often, it's like the evolved version of Dragon Ball. It really much more feels like it's its own thing.
It is. I think there used to be so many comparisons to Dragon Ball, like with Luffy and Goku, and now they're so different now.
And yet they get along so well, as evidenced by Cross Epic. So
And then there's that awesome animation, some tower in Japan where they
the amusement park thing,
where they had the animated crossover with Luffy and Goku teaming up to fight Eneru.
That shit was great. Yeah, like the multi-screen thing.
I don't even know if you can still find that on YouTube.
Probably somewhere if you search hard enough. Yeah.
And that's kind of surreal, saying like, "Oh, you're my two loves." Like,
yeah.
Crossing over, which only happened in poorly written fanfic. Yeah, but I think neither of them deserve to be compared to each other. Oda and Toriyama are two totally different artists, two totally different men in general.
Absolutely.
Mentioning Enter, that reminds me of another one of my favorite scenes with hitting the gold bell up in Skypiea.
And the echoing...
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Luffy defeating villains.
Because every killing shot is... But just, like, everything behind that, like, one hit was just so... Like, it was a very, very long arc, and everything just built up to that one moment, and then bang.
That's
meant a lot more than an arc that recently wrapped up.
No, but see, that's the thing is I personally, because I know, and I can't refute the fact that like I understand why a lot of people are kind of like about the anime, like more so these days, but. Following with it, because this I've been saying this a lot to the gang, like off mic, but I'll repeat it here too. With me, I find that when I'm reading the manga, and I'm still enjoying everything, but when I'm reading the manga, most often, especially with the Dressrosa arc, it's like I'm seeing the story, like what's happening, like right then and there, and then like in a year from then, when the animated version comes out, and I'm fully like aware of like and able to keep track of like what's going on with all the different characters scattered around, all the different subplots and things happening, and it's like with full music and sound, animation, everything. Then like I get the full impact of what it is that Oda's story is like really saying in the long run. Because when I got up to the big, that big hit against Doflamingo just recently, I was immediately brought back to the same feeling of like. Eneru, Crocodile, Lucci, all these major characters, just like that one big final, and everything comes to a head. Finally, the suffering ends.
Dressrosa, I think it will be an arc that's better to look back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I fell out of One Piece for a long while during like college. At the end, I caught up. I remember when people were talking about Thriller Bark, everyone was kind of like, "Oh, it's going on forever. I don't really like it." Then I read through it finally, and I was like, I really love this. But maybe it was just because I read through it all in like 2 days.
Yeah, because
Skypiea was not...
Yeah, a lot of people...
Not a popular art back in the day.
I liked it at the time.
Now it's like my third favorite.
Yeah.
I think Thriller Bark and Dressrosa might even have the similarity of them just sort of being like a mad dash to the finish.
Yeah. Well, and see, because it's interesting about the speeding through, catching up and everything. I'm finding now also, because I think maybe one of the reasons why I look back on some of these arcs that I've now seen years ago by this point, and seeing them in these 13 episode chunks with when the new box sets come out, like I'm just like thirsting for more. Like One Piece seems like a show that actually lends itself very well to being like you watch a big. Like bulk of episodes all in a row, and you can skip over like the recaps and theme songs and stuff or whatever. Like if they do they have a marathon feature? I think on the Voyages. That's right. Just like DBZ does. And it's if anything, it's almost like watching like a bunch of little mini like movies or whatever like in a row, and you get the full experience. And like because I'm even reminded like some of the one of my real favorite like little short arcs because it's part of season 7 technically. is Sub-Odi Archipelago. Like, everything from meeting Kami and, like, Hachi again, with, like, kind of the throwback to what happened with Nami again, and, like, finding out about the slave trade and the Tenryubito guys, the world nobles or whatever.
It's kind of like when the world in One Piece started looking just a little bit darker.
Yeah, like, and then, like, Kuma showing up and everybody being scattered. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is, like, insane. Like, it's such a, like, it just comes out of nowhere, and it's so dramatic and amazing. And then, like, following that up then with Amazon Lily, which also had some really heavy, great stuff to it, but was so, I mean, funny thing about Amazon Lily, a special place in my heart for that one, because I remember one of my very few criticisms about One Piece was, man, Oda's women characters, except for, like, Robin, basically, they all really look similar. And Amazon Lily comes about, and everybody looks different, and they're all, like, these really cute, individualized, like, cartoony girl characters, and all really fun. I love Hancock and her two sisters and Margaret and everything. And, like, yeah, season 7 with, like, Saba-Odi, Amazon Lily, and Impel Down, like, that threefold hit of arcs, like, the kind of shorter ones all together, like, I love so much more than I remembered, and seeing those again now. And now I'm excited to see the Paramount War again soon. We could this part of the whole thing could be a topic in and onto itself. We could talk about
really
for hours.
It's really hard to cover One Piece.
Yeah, but
in such a short amount of time.
I'm actually curious, because, I mean, on that note, I mean, you guys cover One Piece, I mean, basically every week, more or less.
By basically, we mean every week.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, okay, because I don't even fully know the story either. I don't think I've ever really heard it, but I mean, how did that start with you guys?
I'm not even one of the founders of it.
Right.
That was all the co-hosts are Zach and Ed, who were roommates. They were roommates in college. Ed was a huge fan of it. Zach never saw it. Ed really pushed the series on Zach, and Zach started watching it, fell in love with it. They were big Lost fans, and they listened to like a Lost fan podcast. And they're like, "Oh, we should try doing one of these for One Piece. I think One Piece has so much going on where you can do a podcast about it." And then at the time when the One Piece the simulcast was starting up, which was a big deal for a show to be released in the States an hour after it aired in Japan with full English subtitles. It's a staple now. Mm-hmm. But years ago, that was a big fucking deal.
That started with Saba-Odi, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then some asshole leaked it.
Whoops.
And then it got pushed back, and that's when Ed and Zach decided that now was the best time to just start doing the podcast, and they did so. And I remember seeing them post about it, and I didn't even know what a podcast was, so I was kind of like, I don't know about that. But then they extended an invite out to me, and I was like, yeah, why not? And then before long, I was doing more and more episodes, and before I knew it, I didn't have to ask to be on the show anymore. I was on every week, and from there, it's just a long story. But
do you feel like the One Piece podcast is kind of like your biggest claim to fame right now, like as a internet person, more or less? Or?
In terms of like the internet, besides drawing the cast of King of the Hill dressed up as Sailor Scouts, yeah, I'd say so. I think the One Piece podcast has been very, very good to me.
And they're all great guys.
No, yeah, they're some of my closest friends now, which is unreal considering I didn't know who the hell they were. And we come from many different walks of life, but we have One Piece is the link, but. Yeah, it's almost been 7 years. It'll be 7 years for me in July, and that's wow.
It's funny too because
One Piece is
gone on
showing
for
no signs of stopping.
Just a fraction of that time, even. Well, because also I remember when we were in college too, we crossed paths at a library, and I think we were talking about One Piece that day, and then we didn't see each other for maybe a year or two, and then I remember we were at. Help me. What was the little lounge area at SVA called?
The Monkey Bar.
The Monkey Bar Lounge. That's right. We were hanging out, and Mike was there. And by that point, you guys had gotten to know each other through being in the cartooning department. Mm-hmm. And by that point, I think I had long since beaten fucking Unlimited Adventure.
I still haven't beaten that game.
You're not missing much.
Well, I know, because now I can just go on YouTube and watch those clips.
throw the game in the trash and just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Fuck off. That's a collector's item.
Well, now it is. Shame we didn't get the sequel, so you couldn't sit through more of that later.
Throw that in the trash, too.
Yeah. But no, I remember we immediately, like, reconnected and, like, I think became, like, friends for life when, in that moment, I said something about Spandam being voiced by Kent Williams in that game, and you immediately knew what I was talking about and, like, carried that conversation. I'm just like, he speaks my insane voice acting language.
Oh, sorry, it's not the Yu Hawk show anymore, but it's like, he even speaks my language.
Then my language that
That was the moment.
I think by proxy I've forced Mike to learn just by hearing me talk about shit every other day like this now.
Because in case people aren't necessarily aware of Unlimited Adventure, that came out the following January after Funimation had started airing their English dub on Toonami, and it was a big deal because like, whoa, it's the latest One Piece game. It's coming out here, and they're dubbing it, but they're not even near any of this stuff. There's another Straw Hat that they're in posted. Isn't this a spoiler? Because they don't care. I'm not going to care. And
Was that Patrick Seitz?
Yeah, it was a big deal to me just because I want to hear anything Funimation's doing with this.
Oh, yeah.
series.
No,
I
yeah,
wanna
I was
hear
saying
what
that
they're
before.
doing. And that was the big draw for me. I mean, it's
Yeah.
also a One Piece game. Game's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But man, it felt worth it when you got to hear like Kaku talk for like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's funny because some of those characters did not carry over their
Yeah.
voices later. Actually, on that same note, because one of them that changed their voice when they got up to the episodes, Aokiji, I always have, and you Mike can attest, I always have a big affinity for ice-themed characters because I'm biased as shit. But Aokiji is actually one of the few like very confident and genuinely like intriguing ice-themed characters, and like he's another one again. Like we've known about him for years, but there's still so much to him that we don't know about.
There's only been more mystery added to him.
Yeah. Especially because, like, I mean, well,
I forgot to
you
mention
know.
that. Yeah, Aokiji Kuzan is another one of my favorite.
Oh
characters.
yeah.
Like we don't know all the specifics of what happened in like the 2-year gap with him.
Yeah. But like,
So it's like on top of the mystery of that he already had. Now there's like an extra 2 years.
it's like, what is
added
this?
to it.
Yeah, what's this deal? Yeah. I mean, I actually, we love Blackbeard. I mean,
Blackbeard's great.
for who will assumingly be like the big final
I
bad.
think he's gonna be the big baddie. Yeah.
Not have guessed that when the first time he showed up.
Yeah. Especially with him and Luffy's like first interaction being kind of like lighthearted.
Yeah.
For
Or
now, him
kinda
basically probably gonna end up being his final opponent in the long run.
Cut
Like
from the same,
jib
thread.
of yeah.
They're both pirates that love being pirates. Except
Yeah.
one of them is dastardly, and the other
One's
one
the
is
bad
legally.
kind of pirate.
Yeah, well, Blackbeard is, I think, more so than any other character, the most like a traditional, like stereotypical, like perception of a pirate character. But
that's the funny thing about One Piece is like, despite kind of with Viz and 4Kids like early interpretation of it, with a lot of yar me matey and all that, it's these days. If you showed me the main cast, I wouldn't be able to tell you that was a pirate show.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the cool thing. It's like it doesn't limit itself to just Yarg. You got, like I said, Buggy's crew is a bunch of freaking circus performers.
yeah, well, all the thematic, like different, like pirate crews from like the villains and the friendly rivals and etc. Like they're all interesting in their own kind of way. It's funny too because you remind me on the case of, and you might actually remember a little more about this than I do, but some of the early like pilot-esque versions of the first chapter of One Piece, where they were kind of more like
Or the Romance Dawn stuff.
yeah, there were specific terms about like the pillaging kind of pirates, and then like the free pirates who were just going on adventures or whatever. Like, because I look back on that now and I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't have worked with like kind of the sort of loose philosophy now, where like Luffy doesn't consider himself a good guy or a bad guy or whatever. He does. If you really break down to One Piece at its core, almost every story arc comes down to Luffy is a simple-minded, very strong idiot who wants to be free and have a good fucking time and eat meat. And he becomes friends with basically anybody who treats him nice, particularly if they feed him. And then if like something really bad that involves people who are like worse human beings than him and his friends happen to be going on in his vicinity, and it has to do directly with the people that he likes that have become his like any kind of thing he'll consider a friend. People are like, okay, we're stopping everything and we're going to help them, and then we'll go to the next thing. And even sometimes when they get the typical like, but we have to do this more important plot-related thing, or we have to get to this island because of whatever. He's just like, I don't care, whatever, we'll just do this anyway. Like, life's an adventure. It's the journey, not the destination.
Back to Skypiea, it's like, no, we're going.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, Skypiea is just... Skypiea is an arc you could just show that by itself because it's just an adventure of a bunch of pirates getting some fucking gold. And it works completely.
Probably the only one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got money.
These days now, I think One Piece is written like Venture Brothers. Like, it's for the fans. Yeah. But One Piece is always making new fans, so I can't complain.
It's incredible how people can still jump on with... I mean, I'm looking at your shelf over in the corner with how many volumes you got collected.
Well, I'm down 3. I haven't got the last 3.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's amazing. And I've found this trend lately with a lot of our listeners. They'll say, hey... it's like, I got a buddy in One Piece who just finished watching everything this past month. And I'm like, the fuck?
Wow. Because
one thing I want to talk about, this is talking way early in the podcast, the blog, whatever you want to say. We're talking about how the art style was not the best, and it was kind of very... like it was a bit of a turn-off, and I will admit that I kind of felt the same way. It's amazing going back now and reading it, and I'm loving the old art style.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, I love this. It's so mediocre, but in the most endearing way. I don't want to say mediocre, though. I think it has such a unique style that...
Yeah.
Like the manga still looks fantastic, but there was a lot more... definitely there was a lot more cleanliness to it, but...
Well, because also...
I think this is just coming from an artist who... We tend to gravitate towards things that are unique instead of things that look like everything else.
Well, Oda was an apprentice to the Kenshin creator, I believe,
yes.
right? Yeah. And I mean, like his artwork. I mean, again, I'm looking at your wall, and you've got all these like posters and stuff. I mean, like Oda's like color spreads and his like cool illustrations of like the kind of AU versions of the One Piece characters, like in the ancient Japan stuff, and other ones like that are like they're boxing each other. It's just like there's such like incredible pieces of artwork like onto themselves,
very
and then
methodical.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I don't know what his
the thing is, I if someone would tell me that like One Piece is bad art, I'd show them a color spread. I'm like, you tell me this is bad.
Yeah,
you tell me this is bad.
I mean, if they just don't have like a taste for like manga in general.
No, well, the thing is, the style's changed now. It's definitely not as well. One Piece is always going to look ridiculous, but I don't think it's quite as cartoony as it used to be. But what the point I was trying to make was back then, everyone's excuse was, I don't like the art. Now people's excuse is, it's too long.
Yeah.
and they have every right to say that. But there are people that, they get their friends into it and they watch all of it. I know I have a friend, and I mean, he was only watching the dub episodes, but man, did he watch through those.
Yeah.
I don't push it on anybody. It's if people don't read them, whatever.
Well, because they
come around one day.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Because I even remember
I've got a lot of friends that have come around.
Like Mike Kurako, he was on the Peanuts movie one that we did a while ago. I mean, he's not that big of a anime guy. He's seen a couple series, but he gave One Piece a shot. Like I think when we were still in college, he was like, I kind of dig it. Yeah. It's cool. It's something about it.
It's so appealing to. It's so appealing to other audiences. Like it barely feels like a manga. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it's from Japan. It's so universal. That's why I think it deserves so much, because man, anyone could read this. Like kids, adults, no matter what nation,
what or who you are. Yeah, people can relate to this. I hear the reindeer readers are big fans. Actually, I was going to say way earlier on the character stuff too. It's funny kind of seeing the trends, because there were moments I remember back when, like, way before anything that we're up to now, but people used to say like, it peaked at Alabasta, like that was the last good arc or whatever, which I love Alabasta, but that's so not true looking back. And then
because that happened before Water 7.
Sure. Well, I think even by the time Water 7 was finishing up, there were some people saying that, and they're wrong, but that's okay.
I think the Water 7 Enies Lobby is, I think, the best arc of One Piece, but it doesn't mean One Piece hasn't been good since.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Awesome, but that's just like...
And I remember at that time, like, because they're all, obviously, the top 10 character polls or whatever that happened. Scott and I were talking about that on the Naruto one, too. But, like, Kaku was in the top 10 favorite characters, like, when the Water 7 stuff was happening, which seems, like, bizarre looking back. And then, like, Trafalgar Law has become extremely popular in the last several years now. And, his design is a little bit more, like, run-of-the-mill in terms of, like, anime-style stuff. But he's definitely got a very, very cool kind of story to him, and he's got cool powers.
Cool genes.
Yeah, I mean, and he's...
the bird.
Not in the show. I don't know why. Why is that too mature?
A little too much. Yeah, it's something they don't do in shonen shows.
Like, not anymore. They used to all the time. Yu Hakusho and DBZ did that shit all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, we're getting into... I mean, I mentioned earlier, like, the current arc that's running in the manga right now that I'm assuming will start in the show probably within the next couple of months, involves, like, this race of, like, animal people. And it's like, I mean, we had teases about them, like, way back in, like, Sabaody a little bit. There was mention of them, but, like, it's another case where it's like we're on this new setting with, like, a whole new race of characters that are all, like, again, really cool, inventive designs with a whole, like, awesome, interesting, lore-ish backstory to, how they fit into the massive One Piece planet, while also not sacrificing the character-driven things and, like, still balancing out all the major characters and, like, progressing all these major plot lines and everything and, like, going to all these different locations. And it's so fucking cool. Like, and it just doesn't stop being cool. Like, I mean, again, even in, like, the slow periods, you never feel like, oh, man, I really don't care about One Piece anymore or whatever. It's like, it's still, like, you're still emotionally invested. And then, and the other thing is, because the character developmental stuff doesn't take a back seat, it still always is at the forefront, more or less, that when you get the little nuggets about, like, oh, like, something about the poneglyphs, or, like, or like this country relating to, like, the deeper mysteries, like that kind of stuff that, some shows focus all on that and not enough about the characters. When we get a little bit about of that stuff once in a while, then it becomes, like, that much more you cherish it. And it's like, whoa, shit, like, that's a new clue about something.
It's kind of become the current thing with One Piece. It's a very plot heavy, bigger picture focus right now. But then again, we've already seen each character's had their own arc where they developed and kind of became worthy to be in, like, the main cast.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, now we know these characters. So now it's like, oh, now we get to know more of their quirks and, focus more on their motivations and then the grand, the greater picture.
And I mean,
it's a lot to take in.
Well, I didn't even think to say this, but I mean, Sanji, like, is technically another character that we've literally had since, like, the beginning. And there are things that we are only just now learning about regarding him. Mm-hmm. And then they might be, like, very, very major things that are really exciting. And that's both hitting the character developmental stuff and the lore stuff at the same time in such a big way that it's like, it's going to be a really exciting year, I think, for just, like, everything.
Sanji,
yeah,
damn right it's going to be.
Like, my God. I don't even know where to go from here. I mean, well,
it's really tough to, like, you can't sum up One Piece.
I actually, while I'm remembering, because I feel like I would forget by the end of this, I want to give special mention, speaking of the podcast, to Zach Logan, who wrote a really, really cool full article about one of the many deeper mysteries of the show, which is the poneglyphs and kind of, like, the
Zach loves his moon.
The moon and, like, the space people and all this crazy shit.
We've gotten to that point in One Piece. I remember when I was really getting into it, it was just about, like, all these characters and the fights, and now everyone's talking about all these unanswered questions and all these theories and what does it mean. No one reads One Piece the same way anymore. Now everyone's, like, reading it with a magnifying glass, like, trying to think, like, oh, what's he hitting at? What's coming? What does this mean?
Well, even I'm just remembering...
Crazy. It's crazy that One Piece has evolved so much to that.
And you forget things sometimes, because even, like, again, Impel Down, just finished that recently, there was some stuff about... Luffy having his life shortened by X amount of years because of the hormones he gets to continue and fight for that next 24 hours in the war and everything. It's like, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that. Like, that very well could be a thing, towards the end of the overall story. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
There's something, Mike, I want you to kind of bring up on here. It's a point that you've made about One Piece, like, being a long-running show. that you've talked about it a few times about how like it's really one of, if not the only one that like it works.
Oh yeah. Like there's a lot of like shonen style things like Naruto and even Dragon Ball Z. Like as much as like you love them, yeah. Like, one of the biggest criticisms that always come up is, this goes on too long, or I can't get into it because it's such a long series. I don't know where to start or whatever. But One Piece is one of those things where like it goes on for 1,000 years or whatever, but it's structured to go that long. Like, it's all about the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
Like even though they say like, oh, we're gonna find the One Piece or whatever, it's not about that at all. It's just about going along for the cruise and enjoying the time.
Well, the show's always working towards that. It's not like with Naruto and Bleach where the kind of the whole focus is defeat the bad guy, and then when you defeat the bad guy, you're back at, you're back at zero. You're back at like, all right, now what do we do?
Yeah,
that's how Naruto and Bleach has kind of been. Well, I can't really speak so much for either of those series because I haven't read them in years, but I remember Bleach being like that. It's like
they always get to points where it's like, oh, it could end, but it's not gonna. Or it could end here, but it's not
with
gonna.
One Piece, like, it ain't ending.
When it gets there, though, it's going to be the end.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in 2030...
I don't even think Luffy finding the One Piece is going to be the end of the story.
But I mean, like, once they get to the end, it's not like, oh, they'll just hop on the ship and go on another adventure, because it's like they'll have done everything in the world.
Back to square one.
I mean,
like,
listen, I mean, they might. I mean, that who knows? That might even be the ending. I mean, what if the ending is like, hey, we discovered a spaceship. Let's have a journey to space, and that's the end.
We haven't been
GT.
We haven't been ruling out though that they might go into space.
Yeah,
it's possible.
I remember actually, cosmic debris might have even told me about that theory ages ago. I remember that because of Eneru and everything.
We're gonna go to the moon and fight Eneru.
Yeah, well, Eneru is. I feel like Eneru will come back.
Yeah,
I really feel like he'll come back.
He's gonna be back.
Yeah, like there are definitely certain characters I feel will come back in some kind of big deal way again.
Story.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I wonder what Eneru would do outside of Skype.
Might have something to do with Zach's theory. Who knows?
I haven't read all of it, but
worth. I might even have like a link to that in the description or something. Yeah, I mean, no, I think that's completely true. Your bit about that, like and actually, because kind of related to that too, one of my other, like, a moment that really stands out to me, it's not a big fight scene, it's not like a super, like, heavy dramatic moment, but it's when they first meet Rayleigh, and he's sitting in like Shaki's bar, and it's all straw hats, and he's talking about, like, I know everything. I know about all the cool shit that you, the reader, listening to this conversation, want to know, and I can tell you, I know all about the poneglyphs. I know all about the blah, blah, blah. I know what One Piece is. I know where it is. And Usopp has a moment where he's like, "Can you tell us?" And Luffy, like, screams at him, like, "Don't you fucking dare. I don't want to know. I want to find it for myself. We'll get there on our own." And I'm like, what's
the point?
That says so much about not just, like, the story, but, like, I mean, the story in the context of itself, but the story as a product.
It sums up my feelings. I know we've had some questions on the podcast where I think someone, I don't know if it was a choice between one or two, I can't remember, but someone asked, like, it's like, would you want Oda to tell you the ending? I'm like, no.
No. God, no.
It's like knowing when you're gonna die. It's like, I don't want to know, because then, like, the rest of the time all I'm gonna think about is when I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And, like, how it's gonna happen. I think that's a little grim, but with One Piece, like, yeah, why would I want to know the ending?
Yeah.
It takes the piss out. Like, I don't even like coming up with crazy theories, because I think that takes the piss out of it.
I think it's still fun to,
fun.
It's fun to think about those things, but
then, like, I feel like you're going to come across people, not necessarily with One Piece, I've seen this with, like, other series, of people bitch and complain that I didn't like how this went. Here's how I would have wrote it. I'm like, well, that's nice.
No.
You're not on the writing team, though, so...
Actually,
stay there.
Something that's writing team isn't fucking Oda.
Well, I'm talking about, like, other shows.
Oh, sure.
I've seen in the past where people bitch, and then they're like, "Here's how I would have done it."
Well, because also one of the great points that Zach makes in this article that is about, like, theorizing and dissecting the lore and things is his bit about like One Piece as a whole series is about freedom and connection between all things, all people, all everything. And, that's such a consistent theme with almost every individual arc connections between lots of different kinds of people and how they get along with each other and how they disagree with each other even, is the overarching theme of that entire fucking show. And like Luffy is just this like, simpleton who has this amazing power of, his real superpower beyond the fucking gum fruit is charisma to like get along with like so many unexpected people in ways that like you would never imagine. Sometimes even based on the most simple of things, like, again, being fed.
And another thing that makes One Piece so fascinating is it's fun.
Yeah, it's just entertaining.
absolutely. Enough with like the heavy story and the character development, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
Just get like heavy-handed and all.
Yeah. Even when it gets dark, when it gets rough, it gets real. It builds up to it, and then. But then you come out of it, and then Luffy's back to being a goofball.
It's like I've been watching the Flash series on CW, and like every now and then that'll get dark, but it always comes back out of it and has like a wacky, fun time, which is why I like that show.
Okay.
As opposed to the Arrow, which is also like in that same like Cinemaverse, which is just dark and brooding and not fun the whole way through. And
I hear it's still good. I mean, I hear it's good, but like, I mean, I can see why like alternatively something that has a little bit more of a lighthearted kind of.
But you take a look at One Piece, like you show someone an image of One Piece, and you can't help but like see like, okay, this looks fun.
Yeah,
is the way it's designed. And I think it's funny how I talked about how people were so critical of Oda's art and his design earlier. It's what made it what it is. I would enjoy this series as much if it didn't look the way it did, because it takes so much influence from Dragon Ball and
American cartoon. He likes Tom and Jerry, I think, right? Oda's a big Tom and Jerry guy.
I don't know. That could have been something he said in an interview like 15 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
One time he said his favorite character was Buggy. So see what or Gaimon. I don't even know. But he has so much influence from other manga, from Japanese film and culture, from Western cartoons and movies, using like real life actors and like other characters as like reference for character designs and things. It's so much fun. Like, it looks fun. That's the thing. If I didn't know what it was and I saw some comic pages or saw some clips from the anime, I'd be like, this looks different. This looks unique. It stands out. It stood out so much from the rest. And I think at the time, we were still opposed to that because we were thinking everything should look like manga. And now it's like, man, I wish things could look like, I wish more people would take some steps, like some brave steps like Oda did. And I think now we're starting to get a lot more anime and manga that has a different style to it.
I mean, because even when we were saying at dinner, we were talking a little bit about My Hero Academia. I mean, I haven't even watched that show yet. Because to everybody asking me to do a Kirblog on that this month, I apologize. I haven't seen it yet. I definitely want to watch it. And I love the character designs of that series. Mm-hmm. Like, they make me fucking smile. Mm-hmm. And, like, I think that Oda's, like, again, especially the Straw Hats. Like, you just see any picture of them, like, drinking beer, hanging out, or, like, pissing around or doing whatever.
You see that and you're like, you want to exist in that world.
You want to just like be part of that life. Yeah.
Oda's really been able to, reach into like the inner child of a lot of, adults, and then totally cater to all like, to just regular children, to actual children.
Yeah.
That's what's so great about the series. It's captured audiences of all ages. They're like in Japan more than anywhere else because adults will read it. Adults will go to the store when a new volume comes out or when Jump comes out, and they buy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and that says something. That says a lot. Because I mean, like your average adult will watch adult cartoons or read adult comics, and it's great to see that there's just this one manga out there that is a common link between all ages.
I'm kind of curious too if maybe you know more about this, like, because I was saying before, like Dragon Ball is an IP that is internationally known and adored by a lot of different people. Some I think in more countries than others, but in general, it's like a Pokemon type thing. Like everybody knows who Goku is, etc.
Yeah.
Do you know like how big of a thing One Piece is in a lot of different other countries? Like, is the show still being dubbed in other languages? And the manga
I know it's pretty big in France.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you what countries are dubbing it, but all I know is like some of them are even further ahead than we are.
Really?
In terms of releases.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm sure the manga's probably being like kind of well kept after everywhere.
I could have sworn that France, it's pretty big.
Okay. Yeah.
That doesn't seem surprising. Yeah. A lot of the animation that's been coming out of France lately, that's like anime inspired, is pretty top fucking notch.
Yeah, I think actually Kaiser Neko told me that like manga in particular, like the French love manga, like in general. I mean, Europe. I've said this in other videos before. Europe has always just seemed very much more like open to cartoons in general, like for all ages, and not just as they're treating it as kid stuff.
It shows in a lot of the stuff that's been coming out of that.
Yeah. But there's something else I was going to say too, because even again, like, while I can't refute a lot of the criticisms and the groaning about how the anime can be sometimes, but like, I mean, I keep up with it every week, and every time I'll still listen to the theme song, watching all the characters doing their thing, with the opening narration telling me what I already know about what's happening, but just seeing everybody doing their shit and being those characters. Actually, if anything, again, going full circle back to the very first one I did this month about Inuyasha, where it's just like something about like the main cast of characters and them just being themselves and doing whatever, like even if it's the most mundane bullshit, like just there's something about the Straw Hat crew that like you just love like experiencing getting to see what they are experiencing.
And I think I said this about the main cast of Yu Hakusho, but it's even stronger in One Piece, where you could take the 9 Straw Hat Pirates and you put any 2 of them together and you have a unique dynamic.
Absolutely.
Between the 2.
Yeah.
It's but the thing, and it's also believable. Like you could believe that these characters, could get along and respond to each other the way they do. I've heard a lot of people lately, in terms of trying to get people into it, make a lot of comparisons to, like, Firefly. It's kind of eerily similar when I really think about it.
How many like main characters in Firefly were there again?
It's a crew. It's a crew on a ship.
Yeah, I think it might have been about 9 people on.
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, I think around there.
We were also talking off mic earlier about. I'm reminded again. We want another girl on the crew real bad.
Definitely
would like that.
The thing that Steve just mentioned about like how you take any 2 of the crew members and put them together and get something interesting out of it.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of something Mike Rocco was talking about recently about like Looney Tunes. How you can take 2 characters and they won't work together.
Yeah.
You don't put Sylvester and Foghorn Leghorn together.
Yeah. Well, because some of them were built like in pairs, like to be dynamic, like foils to each other. If anything, like I think that's why sometimes when there have been not in all cases, because there are some cases where it works, but when they do like an all-star cast of Looney Tunes thing and it's just all of them together, it doesn't really work because it's not built for that.
It seems like they try to avoid like don't have Marvin the Martian talk to Elmer Fudd.
Yeah. Hey, we should both go after that rabbit together. There's a potential idea. There you go, Warner Brothers. That's
Sinister
probably
Six.
been done.
Yeah.
Why is there no Looney Tunes Sinister Six? Actually, it's funny because I think that's another reason why I like Chopper so much too, is because like every like dynamic that he has with any of the other Straw Hats is like so funny and cute. Like when like him and Usopp and Luffy will freak out with the star eyes over like Frankie looking like a new fucking toy or something, or like. Like Robin and him having kind of almost like a kind of motherly kid kind of relationship in some ways, or like I don't know, or actually like in another case like Zoro and Frankie having that kind of like manly like kind of dynamic, or obviously Sanji with the Nami Swan shit, which just always makes me laugh. I think in my later years I have also grown to like Sanji a lot more. Probably in a similar bias of I love Eric Vale, but Sanji has some really funny, just like even when he's being tortured, like he has such funny moments.
All the characters are funny.
Yeah, I mean,
Oda does such a fantastic job of just not only just come up with characters, designs, backstories, but then like these insane quirks that you like never see these like anywhere else. It's this just really odd Japanese humor.
I feel like Usopp, there's not like a character really. I mean, like there's the one relatable most to the audience, and that he's the most like normal guy. But even he's like
he's a stretch. Yeah.
Because and also even like, and I'm not saying this just because of Sonny voicing him, but like he's not even really like the Krillin of the show. Like he is like kind of his own like unique kind of thing to him.
Yeah.
I started to look back at what I genuinely didn't like him, even in the Japanese version either. I didn't like him
because
for a
everyone's
while.
looking for someone cool. No one likes the coward. You know.
I think that Arlong scene where he beats the shit out of Chu, I think, that might have been the thing that turned me around finally.
Well, it wasn't so much that hey, now he finally beat up a guy. It was he realized like lying his way out of it was dishonorable, and he decided to become a man and stand up to someone he knew he couldn't beat. And fantastic. And that was like at the beginning of One Piece.
Yeah. And
it's like that. Sometimes it takes people years to write that kind of like arc for a character, and for that to happen to Usopp so early in the series, One Piece is so good.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so good. It's a rough beginning. Like, I think it has this misconception where I think people interpret it as a typical shonen. Because you have the happy-go-lucky, pure hero. You have the badass as his sidekick, and then you have like this annoying geeky kid that's always like, no.
Yeah.
I can understand why people wouldn't really flock over to that.
And even look at how far Kobe's come at this point too, where he's going to be the one from the Matrix. I feel like he'll have some kind of like badass thing happen with it. He's a vice admiral now, isn't he?
No,
or close to it.
I think he's a captain.
Oh, okay.
Into that.
Something regarding like theories or whatever. I remember, and I'm so glad that it ended up being the opposite of what I thought. I had an idea at one point about like, wouldn't it be funny if there was like a girl character who like was just as nuts as Luffy was, and she also wanted to get the One Piece or something, and he like fell head over heels for her and like was getting distracted, and that was like an arc he'd have to go through. And it ended up being the total opposite, which was far more interesting and funnier, with Boa Hancock and the Amazon Lily arc.
It's funny that you brought up, I think, another great thing. I like what the series is. It just doesn't cater to romance. Not like there's anything wrong with that.
No, but in that particular
I kind of like
series,
instead of people, like, pardon my vulgarity here, instead of like people wondering amongst Straw Hat Crew who's fucking who, it doesn't matter. Luffy's just completely asexual. His love is adventure.
Well, also, I think we talked about this again off mic before, but Luffy's Japanese actress Mayumi Tanaka made a great point. I think it was at an American con she guessed it out, where somebody asked her like, they asked that kind of question, but who do you think Luffy would have a thing with or whatever, and her point was so great, where it's like, in the One Piece world, when you get on the boat, you leave behind that part of your life. You don't have those kind of feelings or whatever. But she also said, but off the boat, in a different kind of scenario, I could see Luffy having very strong feelings for Vivi as a woman, maybe. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So even she had a technical answer to that.
I'm all for Robin and Frankie being a couple.
What? Okay, what? I totally agree. Why, though?
Because
where does that come from?
Because they've had a similar, they're close in age, kind of similar upbringing. They went through a lot of the same, ordeals in that arc. And also they're so damn cute.
Yeah.
And there's been so many interactions between them from when Robin saw Frankie, when they reunited.
Yeah.
And subtle things like Frankie sleeping on, like, resting his head on, like, Robin's lap. And it's like,
Well, I've never caught on that before.
Yeah,
there's been a couple of things.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes an actual thing. It just works because Robin is so intelligent and wise and serious for the most part.
Yeah.
And Frankie's just this ridiculous dude in a Speedo.
She's still the only character in the main cast that doesn't have one of the faces when she like gets angry.
Well, now
or
she's getting more and more ridiculous faces.
Yeah,
it's true. Not as big.
No.
But
Not with the sharp teeth.
Robin's quirk is like her morbid thoughts.
Her morbid thoughts, and now like her obsession with finding like ugly things cute.
Yeah, like what's his name?
Like suppressed, like suppressed like fan.
No, what's the Kabuki guy's name?
Talking about Conjuro.
Yeah, Conjuro and his his
drawings.
living drawings.
Because
oh, it's so cute. I want
that's how she
it.
draws, or at least that's how she thinks in her head. Like she doesn't have a good visual representation of her thoughts.
I love that.
No, it's like Robin and Frankie are like total opposites, but sometimes opposites attract.
Yeah.
Just like Paula Abdul said.
Yeah. No, it's funny because again, even like we only saw when Liz and I were watching it, she only saw a little bit of Water 7, but just like one look at Frankie and Robin, she was like, I ship it. I'm just like, what is it about that? But no, it makes sense absolutely. No, they're all goddamn. Welcome to that's what this one's going to be called. All of the Straw Hats are great. That's what I'm calling this fucking Kirblog.
They are.
Yeah,
that's the thing. But God, I don't like. I like Dragon Ball, but Goku's not even like a favorite character of mine.
I think he's still
Goku and all, but I couldn't passionately talk about Goku the way I could talk about Brook.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, I'll mix things up a bit and say that I think Brook's a bit of a weak character.
Yeah?
I think Brook just...
I love him, too, because, he's a fucking skeleton.
He's really funny. He's very, very funny, for sure. He's much the funniest of the crew, for sure. Because even... Nami doesn't have a whole lot going for her very often.
Yeah,
not as late. Jeez, there's been so many subtle hints.
That something big's going to happen.
Or at least with Brook. I think Brook is going to have a big part to play.
Okay.
I hope so. I'd love to love him more.
Because with Nami, I feel like the last big important thing to happen with her was she kind of was the one who sparked we're stopping everything to help these people because we care about them with Punk Hazard. Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
She was barely involved in the previous arc.
But my thing is, I don't want to be too presumptuous about what is she just the motherly figure? Let's save the kids kind of thing. I was is that too stereotypical or whatever? I don't know because I try to think about. I try to consider Nami more she's the brains of the operation because she's the one that more than anybody knows what the fuck she's doing in terms of
Which is probably the most important crew member.
For sure, yeah.
Wouldn't get anywhere without her.
Yeah. So I certainly don't think she's... none of them are bad characters by any stretch of the imagination. She is another one I'm hoping maybe after Sanji we'll get to do something a little bit more in-depth with.
There's a chance we could have some information with her this arc.
Yeah, her and Sanji getting married, finally.
No, I mean that. we could potentially learn something about her past, maybe.
Yeah, because...
She's also a bit of a mystery.
Well, we know a good majority about her, because Sanji, I think, is really the only one that we don't know... No, actually, no, that's not true, because Zoro, we don't know where he came from, technically. He just showed up at that dojo out of nowhere, and then just kind of carried on.
She was just like a baby that was found.
That's true. That's true, yeah. Well, mayhaps.
With all the royal people meeting up, maybe one of them.
And this is, it's gotten to right as what I was talking about earlier. It was just what One Piece has become. The enjoyment has gone from just simple good versus evil, awesome fights to now theories. Theories and questions. That's how big of a world Oda has created.
But even past that, again, what's happening right now... they're about to go to basically, I think the One Piece equivalent of Japan, right? With the country of Wano. Yeah. Because that's kind of cool too, where they have these semi real world parallel or inspired kind of countries, or kind of more mixes of different countries, kind of put together into one sort of culture. With Alabasta being kind of desert country kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Dressrosa is more Latino or even kind of Greek with the architecture and stuff.
Spain.
Yeah, and then and then Wano and then Kano is I think more the Chinese equivalent. China. Yeah. And again with and there's animal people and they're gonna fight Big Mom and there's all this shit going on with Sanji. It's all that stuff is
No, I'm not gonna get to that.
What?
About what I think is going to happen with the next arc.
Please, I'm curious.
It's not the place for that.
What? No, okay. Well, then if anything, that's a good point to be what? Listen to the One Piece podcast if you haven't been, because you should be. If you were keeping... Well, actually, question, is it... If you're not fully caught up, is this still something you can potentially enjoy, or do you have to basically...
Potentially, I wouldn't recommend it, though.
Okay.
We cater really much to current events.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think there's a single segment where we won't talk about
whatever happens to be.
Going
on.
We do have some specials and stuff. we did the read through last year where we gone back and read through the manga and talked about each arc. I highly recommend listening to that if you're not all caught up and you don't want to be spoiled.
I would also say
go back and listen to old episodes, but I don't know if I could recommend that.
Well, actually, what I would recommend, because this has to do with enjoyment of the series in general. You just did the One Piece podcast Goes to Dallas kind of mini video series
last year,
with a lot of great interviews with the people who work on the show.
On the top.
But you also talked about like the show in general.
Yeah,
and I would even say, actually, and to anybody listening, if you haven't heard the podcast yet. And maybe if you are or are not fully caught up or whatever, that and also just generally a lot of the interviews with the voice actors that because you've interviewed like I feel like fucking 40% of the cast at this point, maybe more even.
A lot of them.
Yeah, well, you've done all the main characters by now, right? I
yes.
think? Okay.
On the show proper, no, but yeah, we've talked to them all.
Okay, and are basically friends with a lot of them. Look, Tatum and Terry Doty made you into a catchphrase when they were doing a podcast. I would say so.
Well, they're my friends.
Yeah,
I can't say I'm friends with people, but it's like I think the One Piece podcast is surprisingly built up such a great professional relationship with Funimation.
Oh yeah,
with Viz Media, with Crunchyroll.
Well, you guys get shout out. I mean, I remember, when I was going to cons like on a very frequent basis, and I'd go to like the Funimation like industry panels. They'd always give you guys a shout out. Like,
always there.
Yeah. Or no, even if you weren't there,
for more One Piece.
Even if you weren't there, they'd be like, oh, our pals of the unofficial One Piece podcast. They're going to be excited about this.
I think it's funny how just like two guys living in DC just created this thing now, and now what we're trying to build is just like this beacon for the One Piece fan community, and it's come a long way. Like, it was just a podcast for a while, but Zach has such a great business mind because he's always pushing for something new and always bigger and better, and it's gotten to the point now where we just have this huge editorial staff. We have some fantastic writers writing up articles every week. We have a great news team now. They're reporting anything that's going on with One Piece is on our site. The podcast has come a long way, and then like I can't even take any credit for it. I'm just like a color commentator on it. It's like I'm there for the sizzle.
Well, either way,
everyone else provides the stage.
Well, collectively, all of you guys, though, I mean, like, even to be like bare bones, you're free advertising for the show, which is important. Yeah. And it's all coming from a genuine place. I said this about like the concept.
I think the biggest thing it's like we've ever gotten to do was we had a successful Kickstarter fund where we sent Zach over to Japan, and we made a documentary about One Piece. It's called OPP Japan. One Piece Podcast Goes to Japan, that you can watch on the internet for free.
Yep. And please do.
I highly recommend that because that's all just I think that's a great way to learn about just how big One Piece is, and it's almost it's about 3 years old. At least the from the recordings are from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And we released it a year later, and it was made by 3 people.
Yeah.
3 people worked on this thing.
It's a great story.
And it's such a cool in-depth look on just like the impact not just One Piece but Oda himself has had on Japan, and it just blows me away. It just blows me away that they'll take Universal Studios in Japan, and at certain times they'll just donate. They'll devote half of that park to One Piece.
One Piece themed rides. And that's
not like rides, but like they have like a big water show and all that, and they'll have like certain locations and have characters dress up. It's unreal. It's like, and it says a lot about One Piece. Like, I know there's like a lot of huge shows both here and Japan, and they're very marketable. Mm-hmm. But like this show has so much more, I think, of like a cultural and personal impact on people. It says a lot. It says a lot because like something like Transformers will always have like an impact on like pop culture, and it's cool, it's fun, but it's not the same way. I don't think people cried when Optimus Prime died.
Yeah,
and that was trouble.
And there's value to that, of course.
But I cry when a reindeer with a busted up leg and a swollen eye and
holding a poison mushroom.
Yeah, a broken antler walks in with a mushroom he thinks is going to help save his mentor. I lose my fucking shit. when I see that scene. Oda's so talented.
Yeah.
He's so talented. And just like if you're not like if you've never experienced One Piece, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You don't have to love it, but by God, just take a look at it.
Absolutely. I was going to add to the bit about, speaking of the One Piece podcast goes to Japan thing, which had to do also with Greg Werner.
Yeah.
I said something similar. I realized.
God, Greg. Greg would do so much better of a job putting One Piece over than I could.
Well, again, relevant is the Kanzenshu, or again, formerly Daizenshu podcast just celebrated its 400th episode. Vegito EX and his crew have been, doing DBZ fan stuff for like years and years by this point. And I was giving accolades to them for like, you guys are, again, like One Piece podcast, basically free advertising, but it's also, it's talking about this thing because it's coming from genuine passion, like over and over again. And doing the show feeds it on a constant basis, like every single fucking week. In addition to the new chapter coming on, the new episode airing, and new merch and movie news and everything.
We benefited a lot from doing a One Piece podcast because there's so much we could talk about.
Yeah, no, it never ends. And it never ends within the it never ends. But on that 400th episode, Vegito EX interviewed Greg Werner, who, for those of you who don't know, is basically he's paid to be like the biggest One Piece fan in the world, more or less.
Point, If you want to learn about Greg Werner, just listen to the special episode we had to put out covering everything. I think it's called Greg's Bizarre Adventure. And Greg is quite the master of the tall tales.
Oh, yeah.
He'll tell you himself about his journey, but he's...
super entertaining guy. Very
nice. He's probably the most famous One Piece fan.
And he's got also a lot of really fun stories about kind of the early internet age of like fan sites and things like that, too. And the fact that he's literally living the fucking dream right now is like, and but yeah, and the fact that like, I mean, we've sitting here. How long we've been recording this for now?
An hour and 45 minutes.
Okay, we might. I want this to break the record. I want this to be the longest Kirblog now, and it's very close to it. So fuck it. Maybe about 10 minutes, maybe a little longer. But no, the thing about this series is that I think it also really does, much like the story itself, it brings a lot of people together.
It brings out the best of people. No, I know what I'm saying, because I look at what some of these characters do, like Luffy, and I think like one of my earliest memories is just like Luffy, punching a bad guy just because it's like, oh, he's an asshole. And I was like, I wish I could do that.
Well, don't do that, kids, but certainly stand up for what you believe in.
But it's like, it's not just, I punched him because I could. No, but Luffy, like, the thing is, when I said, I can't do that, Luffy doesn't care about the consequences.
Yeah.
And there's bigger moments of that and bigger consequences, and Luffy's still, well,
I don't care.
No, because you said,
life's too short.
You said that about my friend.
Yeah.
So
you're dead to me.
It's just great because One Piece it just resonates so much with people, and if it's not Luffy, it's another character.
Actually, I'm curious because this game has been so long ago. I know that when you and I first met, both times of us meeting, we basically kind of bonded over One Piece.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys spent a lot more time with each other like throughout college because you were both in the cartooning department.
Yeah.
Was One Piece something that like was like a quick talking point for you guys? Out of curiosity.
I don't know. I don't remember us.
You remember
about One Piece? I think we're too busy talking about a crazy college class.
Yeah.
Probably.
We're having to work 24/7.
I didn't have too many friends in the One Piece. It's much different now, but
yeah, I think we might have just like casually mentioned that we each liked One Piece and just sort of went from there.
Well, the fact that also both of you guys, because I think about this now, I should have not been presumptuous to think that you didn't have the first issue of it by total coincidence, but
I didn't own it, but I borrowed it.
Yeah. Or I had seen it anyway. Yeah. But the fact that both of you guys were into it basically when it first came to America.
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up while we were talking. It was the 4th issue that has like Luffy giving the thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I think it was an orange, yellow.
Yeah, it was purple cover.
Purple?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was purple.
That face put me off from it, but then I read it and it was good.
But I really do feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, you find, and I think this because this is the case with a lot of the shows, including like Yu Yu Hakusho we were talking about before, where it's just like, would say, wait, you like that too?
holy shit, and then just like this whole like world of conversation opens up, and it's like, I like you because you have good taste in this thing that I also enjoy, kind of thing. Because it's constantly growing in popularity, but at the same time, is somewhat underground-ish, because it's not like a it's not like the most mainstream, like, accepted kind of thing on that same level as a DBZ or a Pokemon kind of thing. But to everybody that knows it, it's always like, no, but this series is so goddamn good, and you know that it is, and you own it, right? And so like, that power in and of itself, more or less, is just like it. Because I mean, this last bit, as we did with the Yu Yu Hakusho one, where it's like, what is it about this show that stood the test of time? I mean, like, we've pretty much said, like, just in talking about
characters, for the most part, are written well. It has such an engaging story with so many plot threads and so many loose ends that you want to know the answers to, and it's always staying fresh. Every arc is the very least, you're not in the same kind of location than you were previously.
Absolutely.
Like, you go from desert island to island in the sky till like an island that's like Venice. That's, you travel around in boats, and then you go to an island where there's a giant hole in it that you have to get to by train that travels across the ocean, and then you go to creepy Haunted Mansion Island, which is actually a ship. And then you go to Bubble Island, and then you go to Lady Island. It's nuts. Everything, and not just the appearances. It's the tone of every arc is different from
the sub story for that.
You go
arc,
from preventing a war to having an adventure to find gold to trying to get your friends back to, God, we need our shadows back, or else we can't go out into sunlight anymore. Everything is different. That's how it stays so fresh, because the cast of characters are so well written, and there's like Oda himself is just like this man child, just all these crazy ideas that he's putting in there, and they work, and people are drawn to them because they're so unique and they're so out of the ordinary. And saying like I don't like to use the term genius or God, but man, is he freaking talented. It's like he's got a good freaking head on his shoulders, and he doesn't have to do another manga again after this. Probably
he could retire and
tired,
have a real nice life.
He's done so many mangas in one already.
Something I also kind of realized about the very few Kirblogs I've done that have gone on for this long tend to be about series that you have this much to say about, where it's like, and something consistent about each of those I've picked up on is that what makes those things, whether it's fucking Kingdom Hearts or Pokemon or whatever.
Why? Well, let's talk about stories that make sense.
Okay, no, but about those things, I'm getting to a point here, is that all of those kind of franchises have these big moments that really stand out and that are just so incredibly unforgettable and impactful, and they like define like what it is that we love almost about storytelling.
And One Piece has so many of those.
In every arc.
You have to break them up into subgroups.
Yeah, like in every arc, with every character.
Here are the top 10 moments that made me cry. Here are the top 10 moments that made me cheer. Here are the top 10 moments that made
me scream in anger or whatever, or like top 10 fights, or top 20 fights, practically, for fuck's sake. Top 10 Luffy fights, top 10 Zoro fights. It's like,
they'll never stop One Piece. Have no fears. We got stories for years.
Have you done top 10 lists like that for?
I don't know. We've done a bunch of things. We've done like flashbacks and other stuff.
I remember actually an episode that I was lucky enough to guest on like years ago when the show was first starting up. Impel Down was airing in Japan at the time. I think we were talking about favorite openings and endings or something like that.
Yeah, and we
so many more now.
Went and redone that. God, we did a ranking of every single arc up through Dressrosa, and it was so long we had to break it up into 2 episodes, and even those were long in themselves. But it was one of the most fun. It was some of the most fun I ever had recording a podcast. Yeah, and it said something. It said something about going back and talking about the entire story, and there's so much to enjoy. And there's someone, and it's fun to point out like what you didn't like. At least with One Piece, at least I could do that. Like I'll never say One Piece is perfect. I like, it's interesting to point out its imperfections, but all the positives far outweigh the negatives.
Absolutely. Mike, you got any kind of semi-closing thoughts about, this thing that may not have any end in sight until 2030?
I don't know. I think I pretty much said everything there is to say.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's going on for a while, and it should go on for a while.
Who's going to date who?
Doesn't matter.
Chopper and the ship.
Yes.
Chopper and the Kablouterman.
Crocodile and Doflamingo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I do hope Crocodile comes back.
Oh, he will. He will.
I love Crocodile.
With his real boyfriend, Des Bones. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, God, there's even after nearly 2 hours, there still is so much to say about Weekend. I mean, for fuck's sake. But I would say
2 hours is not enough to talk about One Piece.
But I mean, if you want never-ending hours, I mean, I really will. If anybody listened to this, if you don't already listen to the One Piece podcast, and if you are a fan, if you're not fully caught up, I will link to some of the specific things to like some of the more general interviews and things like that to check out. If you're fully caught up, start listening now. You could jump on really at any point, I would say.
400 plus episodes, specials,
Yeah.
a full feature length documentary.
And it's a very well produced podcast as well. You guys do
It's all
a really
Zach.
good job.
If it wasn't for Zach, we wouldn't be doing this show.
Well, I mean, even we're recording this in Steve's place, and he's got a more professional looking fucking microphone than I do.
Paid for by the One Piece podcast.
Yeah, well,
I think. I don't know.
technically.
You did get me the nice mic stand. So.
I think on that note, this is going to basically wrap us up.
Right.
So I think
we're an hour 55.
Oh boy, I think this is now officially. By the time we really are done with this is going to be the longest Kirblog ever, and
That makes
I am
perfect sense. You're talking about One Piece.
so totally okay with that. So I guess to end, I've talked about One Piece podcast, but personal stuff. If you want to plug anything, Twitter, Tumblr,
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm on all social media. Steve Yurko. Follow me on Twitter. And I'm an artist too. Just follow me on Tumblr, on Instagram, all that. Steve Yurko, all one word. And of course, listen to the One Piece podcast. I don't even have to tell you it's One Piece podcast. You'll find it.
Fushes, absolutely.
Zach jumped out at the right time. We didn't have to come up with creative names.
I'll have links to everything.
One Piece podcast.
Sure. Mikhail.
I mean, yeah, same deal. Pretty much all social media. Just search my name, Mike Lucas, just one word. Chris, you'll probably link it all in the description.
Yeah,
anyway.
actually, like his Facebook page because he just started that like 2 seconds ago, and he needs more
yeah.
views on that. Tumblr seems to be like your biggest kind of like draw in because even you still don't have enough. Now I follow him on Twitter too. For fuck's sake, you don't have nearly enough.
Yeah, I
followers.
guess either Tumblr or Instagram are like my.
My Instagram you do pretty well on. Yeah, Munchkin Comics.
Oh yeah, I think I might have one coming up next month.
Actually, you know what? Cons you want to talk about coming up?
Only things I've got lined up right now are Fanime, which is next month, and Anime Expo the following month.
You're doing both those two?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have some new stuff I'm going to be having at those shows: new prints, new zine, the Dragon Ball zine, actually.
Yes, which looks hilarious for all the wrong reasons. You piece of shit.
There's a couple of dead young.
I'm grateful he's dead. I will be at Anime Expo, definitely. I was reminded as of tonight that I have to remember to find out if I'm going to go to Fanime with these guys, but if I do, you will know. I'll make a video about that. Go hit them up at their Autostyles tables if you happen to see them. That's it. Thank you, everybody, not only for listening to this, but also for hopefully enjoying Anime April, our very first Anime April. I'm sure I will do one next year, and by that point, I will have finally fucking watched enough of Hunter x Hunter, One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, and a lot of other shows that were suggested. I'm sorry if I did not cover the ones that you suggested this year, but I will definitely do. And I'm sure I'll also do other ones like throughout the year and not just wait until next fucking April. Yeah, the best anime. Most underrated, absolutely. My butt is finally getting the attention it deserves. I remembered that.
Yeah,
sadly.
From it now.
Yeah.
Now who's sad?
Yeah. But that said, fuck it. I'm gonna announce next themed month will be Marvel themed May, or as I'm going to call it, and this is again real sad, Mayerville. I'll have a official announcement video about it probably as the month starts. But because we're going to go see Civil War and X-Men Apocalypse this month, and hopefully both of those will be fantastic. So maybe I'll even have these guys on.
I'd love to talk about Winter Soldier.
Yes.
That's the best goddamn movie.
Yes. Well, we need to rewatch those with a friend of ours, so we might do that maybe before Civil War. I don't know. Very impromptu. I have to. Mayorville will probably be a one-time thing because I don't think I'd be able to fill another month next year with all Marvel topics.
I could probably say some things about Avengers also.
That's true. Yeah. I'm going to try to cover as much stuff as possible throughout that entire month. So look forward to that. And in the meantime, in the comments, please tell us your thoughts, hopes, dreams, aspirations, memories, favorite characters, moments, fights, episodes, things about the One Piece. Please, I would love to hear any and all thoughts. I'm sure that there are a million things for everybody to say. The Yu Yu Hakusho one did very, very well, and I'm very happy about how many people came out of the woodwork to say nice things about that. So I can only hope there will be an abundance more for this one. So let us know your thoughts. And if you have, I'll even say if you have suggestions for any Marvel-related or not Kirblog topics that I can say for once May is over and we'll be back to the normal shit again, leave a comment about that too. Hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, all the usual bullshit, etc. Thank you guys. Thank everybody.
No problem.
Anime is great, etc. I love you all. Farewell.
I'm going to be king of the pirates.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba.
What the fuck is that?
It's the eye catch theme. You silly.
Well, you did it with Buzz. So I'm thinking it was like the 4Kids music.
No, I have more taste than hit that stop button.